guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Write this down. Write it down. You like writing things down.
The OG edition of Write That Down here, going back 10 plus years. The only show in America that actually puts statistics next to our predictions. We've got career stats going back to 2018. So you can always see just how uncalibrated our prediction radars are. So we'll get to the accountabilities here. We'll make our predictions. A shout out to Federated Mutual Insurance Company. Face-to-face and eye-to-eye, one of the many things that makes Federated Insurance stand out in the insurance industry. They focus on value-added customer service combined with risk management resources, and they help elevate your business by looking out on the horizon and helping you manage risk. It's like having a great offensive line for your business. You can find out more about the 120-year history of this company, both in Minnesota and if you operate a business in the other 49 states. They can help you at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours.
Write that down.
Gentlemen, we got the Timberwolves still rocking. We got the Twins on fire. 8 straight victories, so a lot of meat on the bone here. Here's how Write That Down works for those that are unfamiliar. It's 3 predictions from everybody each week. They must be quantifiable. We keep track of batting averages and home runs, and the season runs from Super Bowl to Super Bowl, so we're still pretty early in the season. And listeners, if you want to be like Caleb and you want to make some guest listener predictions, you can send Declan a message through the Score North app. Judd, are you ready for your comeuppance?
Oh, boy.
Let's see what came off the board for Judd. Let's see here. Okay, only one thing.
Yeah.
You had a parlay. You said the Wolves would win game 2 against the Warriors, and Dante DiVincenzo would hit 4 or more 3-pointers in that game.
Thought he would break out in this series a little bit, and I have not, for the most part, been correct.
Isn't it crazy, before we get to the others here, that they are, what are they, 7-2? They're 7-2 in the playoffs.
They've lost the Lakers and Warriors in game 1. Yep.
And you could argue that it's like the worst 9-game offensive stretch for DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Mm-hmm. And they've still only played. That means that they've had consistently one productive guy off the bench.
Not was good last game though, wasn't he? He was 5 for 5.
Yeah, he's had a couple of bounce back a little bit, and I think his game 2 games ago he played okay, but yeah, he has not been consistent.
Yep, he hasn't been garbage for all 9 games. And to both those guys' credit, they do add other things, energy, defense, they'll grab a big rebound. But even in those regards, we haven't seen a peak stretch in the playoffs yet from this team. In fact, 3 of their worst, so in the regular season, the fewest threes they hit in a game was 7.
Mm-hmm.
They've had 3 games out of the 9 in the playoffs where they've hit 7 or fewer threes. 7, 5, and 5.
Yep.
So, what if they go on and I get in the playoffs, you're facing better defenses and more locked in, highly scouted defensive looks. Right. So you're probably not gonna be making 19 or 24 threes in games like you would on a Tuesday night against the Raptors. But we haven't seen the peak version of this team for more than a game or 2 in the 9 they've played so far.
I think it's a very fair question to ask this. If Na continues to be inconsistent and Dante continues to struggle, can they get through the Western Conference Finals? Because if Julius has an off game, right? Like at some point in time, it feels like you're going to need those 2 guys, and Dante in particular, to have a really good game.
Agreed. And getting way ahead of ourselves. If at some point you were to run into, say, the Pacers, it's not necessarily that the Pacers are running 10 deep of awesome players, but the Pacers pick you up full court all game long. They play with pace. I mean, you saw it twice, once with their bench players and then again with the starters in the same week in the regular season.
Yep.
And the Pacers, I think, have the best record in the NBA, or second best record in the NBA since January. So there's some teams on the horizon that if you close out the Warriors, you're going to need either another player to join your rotation, or 2 of these guys to be performing at a higher level. But anyways, I said the Wolves would win game 2 and make at least 14 3-pointers, and they did. And by the way, they made at least 14 3-pointers in well over half the regular season games, so it wasn't that far out on a limb. Devin said Declan would miss at least 3 days of podcast recordings due to weddings in 2025. Last week, I think we cleared those last week.
I guess so I don't mean to be lawyer Chase here, but it was only one wedding.
Yeah, but you were gone for
due to weddings. Okay, yeah, I did
so
miss.
You're saying because it's plural weddings, he should have due to a wedding. Wow.
I mean, I took it to mean that
that's fine.
This is Devin's ode to Judd. These are Devin and Judd believing
Locked in.
that if it's a wedding, you miss one day and then you come back immediately.
What's genius is this comes off the board right away, but it was a Thursday wedding. So like, let's say this was a Saturday wedding, I probably missed like one day.
Correct.
The
Thursday wedding. I'll side with you a little bit on that. What are we doing here on Thursday?
Well, I mean, I didn't care. It wasn't my wedding. So, I mean, I
know,
totally
but like it screwed up this. It cost you this prediction being right because
I don't know that Declan was like fighting to make sure this prediction didn't come off the board.
Let's just go to a Saturday wedding, okay, folks. Let's just keep it on Saturday. Or maybe Friday night.
Is it? It's probably less expensive to do a Thursday wedding, right?
Significantly cheaper.
Oh,
yes, to get married on a Thursday as opposed to a Saturday.
Start Mondays. Let's just have them on Tuesdays now. It's like the NFL. We'll never plan a Tuesday. We're playing on Tuesdays. We're getting married on a Tuesday.
Like the NFL.
And then Declan had 3 things come off the board. We'll start with the bad. You said the Twins would hit their first grand slam sometime in the last week.
I had like 4 cracks at this on Sunday.
Including Royce.
Including Roy. Royce came up, and I was like, oh, my God. This is going to be the shots of all shots. And, a CNI single, and his first hit in like 7 months. So I was okay with it.
You did say the Wolves would make at least 10 3-pointers in game 2. Mm-hmm. They had 16 of them. And you said when they were like 7 or 8 games below 500 or 6 or something, that they would be the Twins would be above 500 at some point by June 4th. So you gave them essentially a month to get their act together, and they only needed a week.
Yeah, don't let the Twins get hot.
It's a split doubleheader, or what are we doing today? Straight doubleheader today.
Straight. Yep.
And so with that, the updated 2025 season stats, listeners and myself tied at 333 apiece. Judd 244, Declan 222. Myself, listeners, and Judd all with 3 home runs, Declan with 2. So everything is
climbing up here. Finding my swing. I was below the Mendoza line for like 3 months to start the year. Little Carlos Correa. Hopefully now I continue it and I don't get, a wrist problem or something that ground balls into the dirt.
Yeah. So career stats going back about 7 years here. Declan batting 342, Judd 319. I'm at 280. Listeners at 268. Judd the hit king with 363. Eligible for the Write That Down Hall of Fame the entire time.
I was banned until yesterday.
How cowardly is that, though? Let's wait till he dies, and then
and then he said that too.
We'll make him
He's
eligible.
like, he can't hurt the game anymore. That was my favorite.
Was he hurting the game 10 years ago?
It opens up this opens up a whole Pandora's box. If you're going to start to do this, you've opened up. Then you might as well put everybody in.
Well, I think he should be in. I think Barry Bonds should be in.
Right,
I think Alex Rodriguez should be.
But like if this committee because it's not going to be so Rose and Shoeless Joe are not on the writers' ballot because it's long past that time. They're going to go to a special committee. Whoa,
I got it.
Thank you. But if they're going to be allowed, but if they are going to put those two in, you're right. I mean, Bonds has to go in. Clemens has to go in. Guys like Sosa, I'm a little bit more on the fence just because I'm not sure that he belongs in.
Dude, Sosa has like 600 career home runs and MVPs.
Right, but I'm saying I could hear an argument, but Bonds should be in immediately. Like Barry Bonds, if he had never taken a steroid, is still exactly.
Dex and I were joking off air yesterday. You had players in the 70s and 80s doing cocaine and amphetamines to be energized for baseball games, to be dialed in. And we put those dudes like Paul Molitor's in. Sorry to pull back the curtain, but if you're playing a 6-month grind of a season and you're using substances to enhance your energy and your focus, should anyone be in then?
This opens up a whole thing.
I saw a stat yesterday. I did some digging because my high school Slack chat was just on fire with Barry Bonds and Pete Rose stuff. And Barry Bonds walked more in one season than Byron Buxton has in his entire career, and Buxton's 10-year debut is next month.
Yeah. That's great.
What does he have? Does he have 8 walks or something this year?
Just over 200 walks in his career, and Barry drew 230 in 2004.
Crazy.
Go back though and watch Barry Bonds with Pittsburgh. He's a Hall of Fame player.
Famer then. Yeah.
He's a Hall of Fame player. Like if just nuanced. If you want to get into but Sosa before the steroids, he wasn't great.
But we don't know when Sammy Sosa or Barry Bonds started taking steroids.
I can pretty much tell you on Sammy.
But you can't.
I can pretty much tell you on Sammy. But anyway, Barry Bonds at every step of his career is a Hall of Fame player. Like, he decided to hit more home runs and took roids, but go back and watch him in Pittsburgh. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, all-time jackass, but best player of all time.
Yeah, but that's not a decider. I mean, the 70s was
jackass.
Huge jackasses. Reggie was an enormous jackass.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's impossible to sit here and play. We also had, there was a former Twins minor leaguer who called the show on occasion, back the old radio show. And he was pretty open. He said, even in the late 90s, early 2000s, which I guess was kind of the peak of the steroid era, he said minimum 40 to 50% of guys that I knew were on something in the minors, let alone the majors where guys are trying to keep their paychecks and stuff. So it's just the fact that Pete Rose, for instance, the guy late in his career put some bets on his own team to win. All right. They banned him from being involved in the game of baseball. Doesn't take that had nothing to do with the 4,000 hits he collected over the course of 25 years.
And if you're going to clear guys on betting, you cannot use steroids then. Betting is the most egregious thing possible. So if you think Pete Rose bet on games as a player, which we do not know, but let's say that was the formula was, well, you bet as a manager. If you're going to clear that, which they've done now, you cannot use steroids but steroids you can't use steroids. Betting is the worst thing that you can possibly do to a sport. So put them all in then.
Yeah.
Or buzz off. I'm tired of the Hall of Fame.
Great side tangents today on both shows. Just unbelievable tangents. This has been awesome.
Yeah. Should we get Caleb in here?
Yeah,
Our
let's get
guest
Caleb.
listener predictor, Caleb.
He's
just
young. He won't care about Pete Rose.
Grinding through this.
Caleb didn't see Pete Rose play, so he doesn't get it.
Doesn't give a rip. Caleb, what's going on, man? What's your background as a Minnesota sports fan?
So, Minnesota sports fan, all 4 major sports. Not a huge hockey guy, but the other 3 I follow pretty closely. And got it all from my dad. My first memories are 2009 conference championship game. I don't really remember the game, but I remember the vibe of the room when the interception got thrown. Yeah, and then kind of going through, have some stray memories. Sidney Rice was my first favorite player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And but started really actively following in the Adrian Peterson MVP season. And I was young at the time still, and I specifically remember that Week 17 game against the Packers. Tie the game at the end. I'm like, let Adrian Peterson get the record, go to overtime. And I realize how stupid that is in hindsight, but I think a part of me even then knew we probably weren't going to do anything in the playoffs.
Yeah, once Joe Webb was the starting quarterback for that playoff game.
Yeah, and I knew a lot of Packers fans, so that was rough. And the first real heartbreaker was probably 2015, first time I watched us win the division and Blair Walsh shank the kick, and then everything from there. And then the last couple of years, I've gotten a lot more into the Wolves and Twins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are your therapists. You're a Minnesota sports therapist.
You're in for a lifetime. Well, you know what? I shouldn't say that. On the Vikings, you might be. I feel like the Wolves, I don't know now. You might be in for a parade, young man, is all I'm going to say.
It's going to happen at some point. At some point. I get these old codgers in my Twitter @ replies you don't understand. This is Minnesota sports. It's never going to. No, it is going to happen. And there's probably going to be a run where there's a bunch of titles over a 10-year stretch. We just haven't gotten there yet.
You know what, though? I think the most important thing is this. You need a greater force than the pessimist that is us. And Ant is a greater force. Puckett was. There aren't a lot. Like, the problem with Favre is Favre was, but then Favre's fate was to throw terrible picks, and he did it. But I feel like Favre's destiny was his own. It wasn't like we then say, well, of course, it's Minnesota sports. He threw the pick, right? I feel that was more his destiny than ours. But I don't think Ant cares how we feel, and that becomes an incredibly important thing, because you can say, I don't pay attention to it, like the Twins did. 2019, I never forget. Man, you guys in the playoffs have been a mess. That's not us. That's not us. That's those teams. We'll be different.
Well,
and then you go and play the Yankees, and it's like, that's us.
Yeah, I do remember that one.
Yeah, that was a rough one. So Caleb, we're going to start with you, over to Judd, Dex back to me. The predictions must be quantifiable, and those are pretty much the only parameters. So whenever you're ready.
My first prediction is going to be a show prediction. So, Judd, I'm going to want you to take your headphones off.
Oh, boy. Okay, hold on a second. Sports dad moves slowly these days. Hold on. There, here. Okay.
His joints.
So, we might have already touched on this with the sports therapist, but this is going to allude to my next predictions. I want something coming off the board this episode. So, Judd will tell me to be careful in some way, shape, or form. Know it when you see it kind of deal. He's going to say, hold your horses a little bit. So
okay.
That's
before the end of this episode, just to be clear.
Before the end of this episode, because you'll be referring to it to me.
Okay. Love this. We might try to
bait.
See if we can bait him into this a little bit. All right. We'll see what happens. All right, we can bring him back in. Okay. No.
If I could only read lips.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Let's see. Let's see if he does it. Do you have anything to say, Judd? Any comments?
I got a prediction.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep you so going.
Write this down.
Got to write that down for you guys. Perhaps this is it.
Love this drama.
Julius Randle will he'll opt out and sign a contract extension with the Timberwolves this offseason. So he's going to opt out, and then he's going to come back. And then, there is a very interesting discussion here, because him and Nas are both going to opt out. So there's at least a discussion here about how this is going to play out. But Julius, since he came back from injury, has been fantastic. Finch loves him, and that's a real thing. So contract extension for Julius Randle.
Do you think, again, love us some Nas Reed. Caleb's got the Nas Reed towel up there. He's one of the most likable players in recent Minnesota sports history. Do you think Nas Reed has proven himself to be, instead of a 25 minutes off the bench, really good role player, a 35 minutes starting caliber player making $30 million a year?
I don't know. I mean, I need to see that, and you're not, and you don't really get to see that. And so, do I think the potential lies there? Yes. Do I think a team, I mean, the team that continues to be brought up as far as Nas and Julius options, if and when they opt out, are the Brooklyn Nets. So, but I don't know, does Julius, like when Julius left the Knicks, he's like, I love Minnesota. It's, I don't really like being in the concrete jungle, blah, blah, blah. So I'd be curious, does he want to go back there, or would Nas go there? But I just think that Julius has shown so much. Because at first I was concerned he's playing well, but is he playing well to opt out? But the playoff run has shown, I think the playoff run has shown me that I was wrong to question that. I think he's just played so damn well in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, so Brooklyn is projected to have, and then this could be tweaked, but like $56 million in cap space. There's actually there's not that many teams that are sitting there right now without some maneuvering to be able to bring in a $30 million player without like a sign and trade. But like Brooklyn's a great example of, for Nas Reed, for instance. Let's say Brooklyn's an option. They say, listen, man, we tried to get Giannis, but we whiffed on that, so we're looking to bring in some talented players. If you're Nas, would you go for the extra, I'm kind of making this up, $10 million a year, starting role, featured minutes, everything, for the chance to be a 22 points, 8 rebounds, big-time player in this league?
Sure.
But you play for the Brooklyn Nets, and which might be a fun place to live and make a bunch of money, and that's great, but like you're not going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Or would you rather be maybe a little bit lesser paid, maybe not even be starting if they bring back Julius again, if they like this thing? I just think Naz Reid has a really interesting, and maybe it's not even a conundrum. Maybe it's like he's just going to take the bag,
Right,
because this is the one chance in his life to get a bag like
And can
this.
you pass that up?
Yeah. And then what do we do with those towels if he goes to Brooklyn? What would you do with that towel if Naz Reid signed with the
and dry his tears up with a towel?
You know, I think those are still going to be fun collector's items.
Probably popular.
Great giveaway.
All right, Dex, what's your first prediction?
All right, I'll make a Wolves one too. Wolves win game 5 by 20 or more points.
Wow, dude.
I want a home run here. I want a home run.
This, though. That's a good prediction.
Yeah. I think the spread as of last night was 11.
Yeah.
11.
It was
August of
pretty
the series, I think.
Yeah.
It's 11. And like on the money line, the Wolves are minus 560 tonight. Like that is a heavy favorite for a playoff game.
One thing we don't really know, but the Warriors players would know, is how likely is it that Steph is lurking for game 6? Because there's a big gap. You play game 5 tonight. It's the 14th. The next game isn't until the 18th. So you get this long stretch off. If they know internally that Steph Curry really isn't coming back for game 6, I could see them laying down tonight. I could see him coming out, feeling it out, and then if the Wolves get hot, then it's like, well, I mean, hell, what are we doing here? But if they know Steph Curry's coming back for game 6, and all you have to do is put up a crazy fight, get it back to the Bay Area, you get home court and Steph Curry coming back for game 6, I could see them fighting. But we don't know what they know behind the scenes.
Well, and it's a hamstring. Like, I'm sorry. I think it's a mistake. It's a mistake. Look, the last time that Golden State said, it's the playoffs, let's rush a guy back, I believe that was KD.
Durant. Yeah.
And his Achilles popped in that case, because I think that was a calf. If you're Steph, you've got to say, look, guys, I'm an old man. You played me too much. My hamstring. I mean, it's a hamstring. If it goes, it's a summer of hard work.
Yeah, but he's also 37 and knows that you don't get many chances at this stage in your career. Does another thing we don't know is, does Steph think that if he comes back even at 70%, does he think this team can win the title? If he does, he's more likely to push it and come back for one last ride.
Where I think Declan is probably right about the spread potentially tonight is this. I think in game 3, Jimmy said, I'm going to ball out. Like, I'm going to give it my all, and we're going to see that I can lead this team. And he did. He played really well. He balled out. They lost. Game 4, he's like,
I'm good.
No mas. I'm done.
Yeah, that was weird. It was weird vibes.
Write this down.
Okay, write this down. Speaking of Jimmy Butler. And we'll have to quantify this maybe together, Judd, but there will be an audible Jimmy Butler-related chant at Target Center tonight. So a chant using his name.
Okay, so if it is, just for the sake of this prediction, if they go back to the oldie but goodie, Rachel Nichols, which I don't think they will, but it was fantastic.
Ooh, okay. I would like. Could I amend it to say a chant using Jimmy Butler's name or Rachel Nichols' name?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say if you're putting odds on the chant, F.U. Jimmy would probably be odds on.
Jimmy sucks.
I could see Jimmy sucks. F.U. Jimmy would be very aggressive for this market.
But you know what? It's a late night tip off. It's summertime. True. People are.
But I could totally see it.
Okay. Back to our guy Caleb here for second prediction.
All right. Write this down. The Timberwolves will win the 2025 championship, and the Vikings and Timberwolves will combine for a total of 3 championships by the end of the 2030 season.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Get the flag.
Oh, hold on a second here. I don't have a Wolves flag, but I'll get the Vikings flag for you.
Good enough. It's at the start of the prediction.
Wow. I love jumping in with like the huge home run and then adding parlay items to it there.
I got a lot I want to say, and I had to start combining predictions.
That's fair.
I like it.
All right, Judd, back to you.
I like it. Twins prediction. Byron Buxton's career high in games played came in 2017. He played 140 games. He will exceed that number this season. He will play in more than 140 games. That's a lot of faith on my part. It's a lot of faith on my part. But again, I'm not trying to jinx him, but I think it's one of the best underlying stories for a guy who we thought was going to have a spectacular career, and he's damn good when he can play, but it's been derailed consistently. So I'm putting my faith in this is not a mirage. What we are seeing is the real Byron Buxton health for 2025.
Yeah. Dex, remind me on Purple Daily. For those of you that maybe are watching or listening out of order here, I'm going to spoil one thing on the Purple Daily. Write that down. What was your prediction about the Vikings' first Monday Night Football game?
The first Monday Night Football game would be against an NFC North team.
Old Dex and old Macadac. Week
Bang.
1.
Bang.
Monday Night Football, Chicago Bears.
Bang.
Oh, nice.
Week 1, Monday Night Football, Chicago Bears.
Nice, guys.
Write it down. The schedule's piecing together
Where?
here. At Chicago.
Okay, so they will come home for 2 consecutive games and then go to Europe.
Good.
So probably, we'll do all of this when the full
Yep.
schedule comes out live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel on this Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. But yeah, we know the week 1 at Bears, week 4 and 5 in Europe, and then week 8 at Chargers, Thursday Night Football, week 17, Lions, Christmas Day. So we know that then weeks 2, 3, and 7 are almost certainly home games, right?
Did I hear something that we were also playing the Lions on Thanksgiving? I might have saw a rumor about that.
That was a
rumor.
that was a mistake by
Okay,
Jordan
my bad.
Schultz from Fox Sports. He said he read the text wrong. It was Christmas.
Okay, I thought it was both, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I just saw a notification about it and wanted
See,
to hear
that's what happens
something.
when you're an insider and you fire off anything and it's incorrect. You don't get just delete it 30 seconds later. People have sent that thing to the moon.
Yeah, I didn't think it was quite set in stone, but I was wondering what was going on there.
Dex, back to you for your next prediction.
Yeah. Write this down. I'll make a Twins 1-2. I guess technically, I wrote down that their winning streak will get to 10 games. So basically, they sweep Baltimore today because they're at 8.
Wow.
So they will sweep the Birds today. The winning streak will get to 10 games.
Okay.
Write this down.
Write this down. The Boston Celtics will force a Game 7 against the Knicks. They're down 3-1. They come back to Boston tonight, right? And then and Jason Tatum, Achilles, he already had surgery. Kind of crazy. They just did the surgery like right away. But they're still really good even without Jason Tatum. And I think now they're going to have a little, at least short-term inspiration to not just go out like that in embarrassing fashion. Mm-hmm. You could also make a case that if they do get that, if they get to a Game 7, like people have kind of written them off, that's still a really good team with Jaylen Brown and Derek White. Like there's Olympians on that team. So we'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to roll over. Celtics will force a Game 7.
Write this down.
Write it down. Okay, back to Caleb for your third prediction.
All right, final one will be a Twins-related prediction, courtesy of my dad. So with Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Byron Buxton all being relatively healthy now, praying for the first time we get it prolonged, like a season of it. So write this down. Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Byron Buxton will be playing together for at least 75% of the remaining season.
Okay. So from May 14th toward the end of the season, they will be on all 3 of those guys will play in the same game for at least 75% of the games.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if that happens and Brooks Lee keeps hitting a little bit at some point, do we have a Keyshaw timeline? We know Wallner is still a ways away.
A broken arm, basically. He's got a while. I don't think there's been a timeline announced, but that cast is still on. Bones have to heal. Rehab assignment. Late June, early July. It might even be post All-Star break. Just at that point,
dude, put an arm guard on and get out there at the All-Star break. This team needs you.
Kyle Hendricks broke your arm. I can't believe that. Still,
I would check on the bone density. A little concerns me.
That's actually not a bad idea. I like that idea.
Do a bone density test. Caleb, great stuff here. Great predictions. Since you've got this platform right now, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out before we say goodbye?
My dad, number one. Part of the reason I love this podcast is Judd and my dad are like the same age and very much the same across the board when it comes to like being a Vikings Twins fan. Kind of pessimistic at times, but a lot of the same vibes there, and just kind of it's what we bond over. And then his dad put him on being a Vikings fan, so just kind of I appreciate what you guys do, giving all of us Minnesota sports fans more to talk about, more to bond about. And then just my friends in the our sports group chat, the Fellows Talk Sports, and notably Eric and Lauren, who I talk the most ball with.
Nice.
Love
Fellas
it, man.
talk sports. I love that.
That's awesome.
How many people are in the Fellas Talk Sports?
I think it's 18, so it's a pretty big group
Oh,
chat.
wow.
but
Whoa.
I would say there's about 7 to 9 of us that are super active.
Wow.
And do you have notifications on or
Yes,
silence
they
for
get-
this?
For some games, like when the Timberwolves are going, like it's blowing up. It's a lot of fun. So it's
Oh, that's amazing.
really adds another fun layer to watching the games.
Yeah. Caleb,
great.
awesome stuff, man.
Thanks,
awesome
Caleb.
stuff.
Thank you.
Tell Dad hi. Sports Dad
Will
says
do.
hi to your dad.
If Caleb had to choose between his real dad or his sports dad, if you guys were standing on opposite sides,
Sounds like
of
he's
the
pretty
room,
happy with
which
his
way-
real
yeah.
dad.
We should do that experiment. Okay, before we make our final predictions here, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning is here to help the audience.
Yeah, in fact, write this down. The air portion of this is right now, obviously, the most important. It's getting hot. The week has been hot. It's only going to get hotter. It's only going to get more humid. And guess what? MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air, they are there for you. In fact, let me tip you off to something Sports Dad knows. And that is, if you become, for $8 a month, a member of their Total Comfort Club, you're going to get an AC tune-up, a furnace tune-up, and a plumbing check. In other words, if something's wrong now, cut it off at the pass. They'll find it. You'll get priority service, so you don't have to wait if something does go wrong for a tech to show up. And if you need repairs, you're going to get 10% off service. That's right, just for $8 a month. It's a really good deal. Give them a call, 651-615-4292. Check out their website. Call it msp.com. Call msp.com. Make sure that air conditioning is functioning now because you're going to need it for the next few months.
Make sure your pizza oven is functioning too, so you can slam Pep's Legit pizzas. It works really well for like a little pregame Wolves watch party too. Just stop by a grocery store, check that frozen section, and look for the best frozen pizza on the market right now, in my opinion. That crunchy crust, robust sauce, melty mozzarella cheese, and exceptional ingredients. Throw a little crushed red pepper on there for some zing, and cut it into squares like a good Minnesotan. That authentic at-home pizza parlor experience you get through Legit Pizza. And also mark your calendars for the second annual Minnesota Garage Build Bike Show, powered by Dennis Kirk. It's going to be at Running Aces Casino, which is an awesome place, by the way. Your boy here spent several stretches back in the day playing spread limit cards at Running Aces. But they've got the second annual Garage Build Bike Show, June 7th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's free to register your bike and to attend. Kids and families are welcome. Check them out. And the details at DennisKirk.com, where they also have over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories for riding season. DennisKirk.com.
Write this down.
All right, Judd.
All right. Final prediction. Also game 5 tonight, Golden State and the Wolves. Write this down. Ant Edwards will go for 35 or more points tonight. 35 or more points. I don't think he's going to come out and screw around. They definitely felt that they spent the first half of game 4 screwing around. It sounds like Ant and Finchie very vocal in the halftime locker room. Well, you got a chance, number 1, to close out Golden State and remove the Steph equation entirely. Number 2, OKC now up on Denver 3-2, but that series is still going on. So if the Wolves can end this, they do get a little bit more of a rest before the Western Conference Finals start. So Ant, 35 or more points.
All right. Shut them down.
Write it down. You like writing things down.
Dex.
I'll make a PGA Championship related prediction. PGA Championship this weekend. I kind of want to go for a long shot here, and I have a trap door in this prediction, but write this down. Tony Finau shoots at least 10 under par, or, because this can be sometimes, PGA Championships vary. Like last year, Xander went with like minus 22, but then there's been times where it's like a sub under par score. So he either will shoot 10 under par or finish top 5 at the PGA Championship. Going for a long shot here. I think he's like 100 to 1 to win. Like he's kind of at a rocky road the last year. But I like Tony Finau.
Likable guy.
Likable dude. So
Write
go
this
Tony.
down.
All right. And then I'm going to go game 5 parlay here. Kind of the theme of those bench guys that were struggling, I'm gonna put some faith in Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dante DiVincenzo. So I'll say Wolves win Game 5. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a plus 10 or better for the first time in a game in these playoffs. And Dante DiVincenzo knocks down at least 3 3-pointers. So a little 3-item parlay.
Well, it's a nice game. Okay.
The last time Nickeil was a plus 10 or better in a playoff game was Game 6 against the Nuggets last year.
Whoa. That's a long time.
So it's been a minute. But he's shown a couple of flashes.
Sure.
In Games 2 and Games 4. So
what's his free agent future? Like, what's he going to get now?
Yeah, well, there's a couple fairly comparable contracts out there. It feels like smarter people than us are saying $15 to $20 million a year, which would make it really hard to stay under the second apron, bring back Julius, Nas, and Nickeil at that price.
Yeah, no way.
Let alone like adding something else. You wouldn't be able to add more salary. So he's such a key piece, but he's also shown enough cracks in the armor in the playoffs where, all right, if you had to make a hard decision, 2 months ago, the way he was playing, I think I did say, man, he might be a higher priority than Nas Reed. The problem is you've got similarly sized players that you could elevate. Like if you think Terrence Shannon Jr. could step into a role or Jalen Clark step into a role,
yes,
they could help alleviate the loss of Nickeil.
Right.
You don't really have a guy like that on the roster to alleviate a Julius absence or Nas Reed, because you only have 3 guys who are considered bigs, even though Nas Reed's a big, but he's like more of a wing player than a traditional big.
Sure.
But they just have so much more depth behind Nickeil than they do behind Julius and Nas Reed. That's going to factor in.
Yeah, and what is Nas? So in the Wolves equation of like the puzzle of the roster too, what's his value? Like, because his role elsewhere might be bigger, so he's worth more if he plays up to the standard. But I feel like that there have to be some financial decisions made here based on what your role is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's really.
I think there's definitely things that could still happen in these playoffs that would determine what they do. Like if the season ended right now, and obviously like you don't know how you do in the Western Conference Finals, but if you had to make a decision right now, you don't know what's going to happen in the next round. Do you run this roster back? You'd probably say, yeah. Of course, last year you came off of losing in that series against the Mavericks.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, what is the summer surprise from Tim Connelly?
Because there's been 2 huge
and
ones.
And like Nas
in 3
leaving
years.
would not be a surprise, right? Like I'm talking about what don't we see coming that Tim Connelly is considering at least.
And does he speak Greek? Just wondering.
Well, I also have a question.
I think he puts a phone call in.
Yeah. I did hear a couple of days ago in reacting to the Shams report that I loved the report. Giannis will explore options. Not he's seeking a trade. He'll just explore his options. But Wendy said that Giannis is really, really smart about things and is acutely aware that there is no state income tax in Texas.
Yeah, but that's a little bit, I think the way it works, for sure in the NFL, you get taxed where you play. Like if you play, like the Vikings are going to get taxed twice for playing 2 games in Dublin and London based on those taxes. And if you play a game in, so it's a little overstated. It's not, I think this is how it works in the NBA. You don't get taxed for the 82 games that your home uniform
and your
is.
Home base doesn't get right.
So you would you would save some money on taxes for sure. And obviously there's a couple teams in Texas that have a ton of draft pick ammunition, and a team in Oklahoma City, by the way, that have a ton of draft pick ammunition and some young players they could send over. The Wolves have some interesting players they could send over. I don't think you would get Giannis without giving up Jaden McDaniels.
No, I agree with that.
And do you want to deplete your depth to have a top-heavy set of superstars, or is the formula in the NBA, as you're seeing with the Pacers, as you're seeing with the Timberwolves, the Nuggets a couple years ago, although they had Jokic at the top, I guess, but having that depth is really important. So tonight we will be live twice, once on the Purple Daily YouTube channel at 7 for the schedule release, and then again, Flagrant Howl's Score North YouTube channel after Game 5 from Target Center. That's your Write That Down session, gentlemen,
Write this down.
on Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.